Hey everybody, Phil Struzlo from Select Software Reviews. Today we're talking about candidate sourcing tools as well as services. These are designed to supercharge your sourcing efforts when you're in kind of recruiting mode, trying to get after those hard to find candidates or just trying to increase the volume of your recruiting. We spend a lot of times talking to individual recruiters, people on the staffing side, as well as the corporate talent acquisition side to understand what are their favorite tools, as well as what are some of these emerging services that are sort of tech enabled. Some of them are using AI to basically supercharge going after these hard to find or high volume candidates. First off, we want to talk a little bit about this whole tools versus services paradigm. In the tools bucket, you've got things like LinkedIn Recruiter. That's probably the one that everybody's super familiar with. HireTool, Amazing Hire, etc., where you can basically query a database and say, okay, give me all the Java engineers in Boston that have XYZ amount of experience. Okay, here's the list. All right, I'm going to put them into another program or use that same program to reach out to those folks, engage them, get them in our hiring funnel, etc., etc. These tools are amazing if you have dedicated sourcers, or if you're a dedicated sourcer yourself, or you're a full desk recruiter that has to do their own sourcing. That's really where you probably want to spend your time looking, versus the services aspect of things. I put people here. Most of these are tech-enabled services. Some of them are more AI than others. Some of the branding is very AI, and maybe there's people underneath. Basically, this is for if you don't have a dedicated sourcing team, or your sourcing team is constrained, you don't want to increase headcount for various reasons, or maybe you are a full desk recruiter, but it's like, oh my God, I'm drowning in recs here. I need to get candidates, especially for a specific role. You can basically just send these people a rec and be like, hey, here's the profile of people I'm looking for. Either send me the contacts and I'll reach out to them, or just start reaching out to them. Let's talk about branding, etc. We'll get to that key point in a minute. And when people respond and they're interested, just put them on my calendar and I'll do the phone screen. So both of these are really interesting for companies that are growing fast. I personally find this managed service thing to be really, really exciting because you can just ramp up and down all the time your sourcing efforts so that you don't have to have the dedicated headcount internally. Let's say you've got 10 sourcers and you've got a huge spike. You don't have to hire 5 people and then 3 quarters later, everybody's underutilized. You can just sort of ramp this stuff up and down as you need it and even have them go after these really hard to find candidates. Okay, so that's tools versus services. Let's talk about some of the benefits here. Some of these might be fairly obvious. Increased top of funnel. So your sourcing capability is going to allow you to just touch so many more candidates. Of course, using a tool like LinkedIn Recruiter, we've all kind of used that. I view these next generation things like the Intel's HireTools, etc., as sort of supercharge that. They allow you to use different touch points like email, getting in touch with people. People who are hardcore sourcers know that for the most part, you're not just using LinkedIn Recruiter. Email response rates are down. You got to go through other things. Increased funnel obviously also happens with the managed services in a major way. Decreased time to fill. If you don't have to build your own pipelines, if you don't have to switch from, okay, I'm a full desk recruiter and I've got lots of phone screens to do, I've got new job recs to open, blah, 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 I got to deal with hiring managers. If you've got that for 80% of your day and only 10 or 20% is dedicated to sourcing, allowing somebody else to do it or supercharging that 10% allows you to drastically increase your efficiency, which is going to mean you're going to get more people in your funnel faster, which is going to lead to a decreased time to fill, hiring managers getting off your back, or clients if you're on the staffing side. Let's face it, especially in the case of managed services, sourcing can be really hard work. There are people that love it, the SourceCon community, amazing, all these sourcing competitions. But for a lot of full desk recruiters, it's not something that they want to do. They got into the game because they're interested in helping people find the right career paths, talking to people, understanding if they're a good fit. They don't want to do the whole try to stalk people on the internet and then reach out to them and get them on their calendar part of the recruiting process. And so, especially in the case of services, these businesses, these vendors will allow you to take that off your plate so you can focus on the other stuff that maybe is in many cases is more strategic to thinking about your overall candidate experience, your employer branding, etc. Let's dive in lastly to the questions you should be asking vendors on demos. If you're on this page, you're probably looking at tools. Definitely check out the vendors that we recommend. They're straight out of the mouths of the recruiters, the staffing folks that we've talked to. The questions you want to ask these folks on demos, first of all, where are they getting the data from? Whether they are a tool or managed service, are they doing some sketchy stuff that maybe will get shut down, that maybe will hurt your email deliverability because you're getting bounce back, because you're getting marked as spam? You want to understand, is this GDPR compliant? Basically, how are we getting this database of people? On LinkedIn, it's obvious. For when you're doing email and other things, maybe it's not quite as obvious. Metrics. What does their funnel look like? If they reach out to 100 Java engineers in Boston, going back to that original example, how many of those people actually respond? How many respond positively? How many get to a phone screen? And what can we expect to hire from that group? Do they know that this is about a current opening that is in the immediate time frame? Do they know about your company? Blah, blah, blah. All those metrics imply a lot about the candidate experience, which is also intertwined with data. If these things are off, that means the candidate experience is going to be poor. People are gonna be like, who are these people spamming me on behalf of somebody else? And of course, this all relates into your brand, and in this case, your employer brand, which is very, very important, especially going after these niche populations, hard to get in touch with candidates. If you poison the well of the Java engineers in Boston and you're going to be continuously recruiting from this pool, you're basically screwed. And so when you talk to these vendors, you want to understand, what's the outreach strategy? How do we talk about our company in a employer brand friendly way that gets across our specific employee value propositions for this demographic? How do we then hand off the third party to us, or use a tool like Intel, like HireTool, to inject some of this content into the outreach and then to transition them into the ATS, the different parts of our hiring funnel. Hopefully this is a useful overview of the sort of high level, when you're thinking about sourcing tools and services, framework that you should be thinking through. Definitely check out the rest of the article here. And if you've got interesting tips, feedback that we miss, we're always looking for practitioners to add to our knowledge. Shoot us an email, go to our contact page. If you want to join our HR Expert Council, we'd love to talk to you about the experience that you have, vendors that we're maybe missing, tips and tricks that other people should know about. Thanks again.